Arrival of the British. The story begins. India's story is one of the grand epics of the world history. Before the arrival of the British, India was known as the Golden Bird. India has always been famous for its richness in spices, textiles, and pearls. A few centuries ago, India was under the rule of the British. In this chapter, we will study about the modern history of India. The Portuguese were the first among the Europeans to come to India. In 1498 AD, Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese sailor, discovered a new sea route to India and landed at Calicut. It is in Kerala, a state well known for its spices. Spices were the most important items of trade that the Portuguese dealt in because spices helped in preservation of meat and made the food tastier. They also traded in silk and gold, which were considered very valuable in the whole Europe. The Portuguese then settled in Goa, Daman and Diu. Soon the Dutch and French followed the Portuguese into India and established trade centers. East India Company. Then the British also came to India. Eventually, the British gained a strong foothold by defeating the Portuguese, Dutch and French. They set up big trading centers at Surat, Bombay, now Mumbai, Calcutta, now Kolkata, and Madras, now Chennai, and turned them into big forts. They also set up a factory at Masulipatam. The company's trade proved to be very successful. The English East India Company expanded itself and their influence became political. Establishment of the rule. The English East India Company became more ambitious. They wanted to bring Bengal under their control because it was the richest province in India. When Siraj ud Dowla, the Nawab of Bengal, protested against the British ways, they started a war against him in 1757. This war is known as the Battle of Plassey. The British under Robert Clive emerged victorious. He captured Siraj ud Dowla and put him to death. He became the first governor of Bengal. He introduced the dual system of government. In this system, the British took care of the defense of the country and the Nawab of Bengal looked after the civil and criminal administration. It is believed that this battle changed the destiny of both the East Indian Company and India. Another battle, the Battle of Buxar, took place in 1764. The battle was fought between the British and the combined force of Mir Qasim, the Nawab of Bengal, Shuja ud Dowla, the Nawab of Awadh, and the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. The British won the war and obtained the right to collect revenue in Bengal. Thus Bengal finally came under British rule. After the Battle of Buxar, the English East India Company laid the foundation of its colonial rule in India. Finding it a golden opportunity, the British applied the policy of divide and rule. They started introducing laws to make them even more powerful. Some of these were subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse. The policy of subsidiary alliance was introduced by Lord Richard Wellesley, who was the Governor-General of India from 1798 to 1805. According to the terms of this policy, Indian rulers under British protection had to give up their native armies and instead maintain British troops within their states. It allowed the company to establish a direct control over an Indian state without having to spend any money. States of Hyderabad, Travancore, and Mysore were conquered in this way. The policy of the doctrine of lapse was introduced by Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor-General of India from 1848 to 1856. According to the terms of the doctrine of lapse policy, if any Indian ruler who was supported or created by the British government died without leaving behind a natural male heir, which had to be the ruler's own son, then the territory and its wealth would be considered to have lapsed and be taken over by the British Maratha kingdom. Jhansi and Awadh were annexed by the British through the doctrine of lapse. The Indian people were not happy about these policies and acts that were enacted by the British. By 1850, the British had established their rule in most parts of India.